mean, you kind of have to hypothesize about like telepathy.
Right.
Right. So like, what if I could read people's minds and that were proven, but I was like one of maybe 1,000 people in the world that could do that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, do you really think that it would be the first time it was like officially discovered or known? I mean, I feel like the people, if telepathic people, for example, existed, they would be able to communicate to each other in a way that's like, hey, why would we want other people to know about this?
See, but I think those people might actually have an evolutionary advantage because they have more information than people who don't have telepathy.
Right. And here's the thing, though. They actually have a lot to lose by sharing it. It goes back to you said about the psych ward, right? It's the in-group, out-group bias. It's like someone, if I perceive, or let's say you perceive me, well, let's say I perceive you. Let's say I perceive you to be hearing things in my head. And let's say it's actually real. Let's say you actually have telepathy.
Okay.
And you start saying things that I'm thinking. You don't know what you're doing. We're in a party situation. There's like 5 other people. You start doing it with everybody. All of us get freaked the frick out, right?
Right.
We're like,
well, that's only if I actually share, if I don't just secretly remember and then use that later to my advantage.
well, I'm using one of the variations of your thought experiment where you're just communicating everything that you're perceiving.
Right. Yeah.
So, I think we'd be very likely to, even if we didn't, we'd probably feel that it was valid enough that it wasn't like, okay, he's hallucinating, he's seeing something, he's saying things that aren't there. We're all having a shared experience where he's actively perceiving our thoughts accurately. We'd probably all still want to leave, right? Because it's so new and novel. It's like, how do you have this vision of reality and how people interact and how we exchange information. It's like, what does it mean when somebody can like intrude your thoughts without your permission?
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing your point say is the people who would be open about their telepathy would have a hard time maintaining friendships with people who weren't telepathic, and that would be a like disincentive to share that, because that would like socially, make them outcast essentially.
I think it would. I think it really would, and it poses a real danger too, right? Because I mean, if well, let's say like if you were in like the Salem witch trials, or if you were in like a really like religiously fanatic, like old European country like England, like in 14th, 17th century, I forget. But they used to burn witches, what would happen if you did have those abilities at a time when it's like those things were seen as naturally evil when maybe they weren't, you know what I mean? What would happen to you? And it's the same thing. And here, and to tie it back to something that's more grounded, because, what if it has to do with something like political beliefs, right? I mean, we live in this day and age right now where so many people are talking past each other. And I'm just taking that, I'm only talking about it that far. We're talking past each other because everyone's perceiving different things, a la social media, because the algorithm kind of manipulates and makes sure that everyone does see something different. So when you have all these people who are perceiving events in the world differently, it's like you're kind of getting this active simulation of what would happen if everyone did have psychosis simultaneously. Kind of, yeah.
I mean, but it's a little bit more of a tribal phenomenon though than like an individual basis though, right? It's because it's not quite to if every single person had completely different set of views, then that would be a different problem. That would be like just out warfare with everyone. It's more of like a tribal conflict type of scenario, right?
Yeah, where it's like all the telepathics would like form one group and all the pyrokinetics would form another.
And the necromancers would be...
Oh gosh, don't even get me started on necromancy, man.
Yeah, this isn't that kind of podcast, but it could be.
By the way, side note, there was apparently old documents in Asia that say that smoking cannabis is the equivalent of like an initiation into necromancy.
Okay, I'm just going to let that...
Just let that go.
Yeah, let that go.
Let that go.
Okay.